Hello, welcome to this course on learning how to play piano for worship. This is the intermediate section and it is numbered 206. In this lesson, we'll learn about the progression note. Well, what is a progression note? A progression note is basically a note that we'll play on our left hand in order to guide from chord to chord, so that when we listen, the whole playing itself is more smooth and continuous. So let me bring you to the keyboard first, and the first thing that we want to do is to refresh what we have learned in the last lesson. In the last lesson, we played still with the compressed playing style, and we also used the twang, the 1, 2, 3, 4 end, and we used the slash chords as well inside this compressed playing style. So let me just begin by refreshing that with you from the melody introduction all the way up to the first line. So let's begin. Okay, I hope you still recall that in terms of the compressed playing style. Now, let's move on to the progression note. Like what I told you, the progression note is only played on your left hand. So let's just see an example. I'll bring you back to screen again. And you can see on screen I have color-coded some chords in blue, some chords in red, and the rest I left it as black color. Well, basically, you just need to know that the blue chords are step down progression notes. The red chords are step up progression notes. So basically, you'll play the step down progression note just before the blue chord and the step up progression note just before the red chord. Let me just bring you back to the keyboard and I'll show you on screen the first line of still. As you can see on the first line, the F and the D minor should have a step down progression note just before both chords itself. So let's just run through that first line first in the compressed playing style, then I'll show you the progression note. So it goes like this. Okay, so like what I mentioned, before the F there should be a progression note, and before the D minor there should be a progression note. So what is the progression note? Let's take a look at the chord just before F. It's an A minor. So A minor to F, there should be a progression note in between, and naturally it should be the G in between. So let me just show you how does A minor go to F with the progression note, and I'll explain that a little bit more later. So on the A minor itself, for 4 counts, it will look like this. Okay, so did you catch that? I played basically the progression note of G on the last end count of the A minor, which means to say, slowing it down, it will be a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and so on. Okay, so let me just do that again so that you're more familiar with that. So A minor again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. Okay, I hope you caught that. Now let's look at the next step down, which is from the F to the D minor. There should be a step down progression note in between. Naturally it's the E over here. Okay, so how does it go? F and D minor has 2 counts each, so it should go like this. Okay, let me just show you that again. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Okay, so like what you can see, basically the progression note will always come on the last end count of the previous chord in that sense. So for example, on the D minor chord, this E progression note will come on the last n count for the F. So it's the 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and. Okay, so let me just play this whole first line with the 2 step down progression notes before the F and before the D minor, so you get the feel of how it looks like. So let's begin. Okay, so how did that sound? Yes, the progression note is supposed to make it sound more continuous in that sense. So you can see, instead of just skipping from the A minor to the F, we went from the A minor to the G, then to the F in that sense. Okay, let me just bring you to the next step down progression note first. And you can see that the next step down progression note is on the F of the first F of the chorus. Okay, so showing you both lines itself from within your mighty hand to when the oceans rise, we can see is from a G to an F, and there is a step down progression note in between. So naturally, between the G and the F, the only note is a F sharp. Okay, I haven't introduced you to sharps and flats yet, so let me just take this time to tell you what sharps and flats are. Basically, sharps are black keys which are just on the right side of white keys. So for example, this must be an F sharp because it's on the right side of the F. This must be a G sharp. This must be a A sharp. This must be a C sharp. And this must be a D sharp. Okay, so F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, C sharp, and D sharp. Okay, so your question might be, what are flats? Flats are actually these notes can either be called sharps or flats. If you want to call it sharps, it must be the right side of the white key. If you want to call it flats, it must be on the left side of the white key, which means to say this was an F sharp. This can also be called a G flat. Okay, so this is a G flat. This is an A flat. This is a B flat. This is a D flat. And this is an E flat. Okay, so let me just run through. F sharp or G flat. This is a G sharp or A flat. This is an A sharp or a B flat. This is a C sharp or a D flat. And this is a D sharp or an E flat. Well, sometimes we are more accustomed to calling one or the other. So this is usually called a F sharp, G sharp. But when it comes to this, it's called a B flat instead. So we use this as a B flat. This is called a C sharp, and this is called an E flat. Okay, so just some notations that you need to take note of. We'll be using that only when we come to transposition, which will be a few lessons down the line. So now let me just continue with our step down progression note. So like what I mentioned to you, the G to the F has the step down progression note of the F sharp. Okay, so how does that look like? It's still the same, except that it is on a black key instead of a white key as per normal. I'm going to just play the G 4 counts and then step down to the F 2 counts. So it should go like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay, just one more time. It should go like this. Okay, so that's your step down progression note from G to F. Now let's just run through our final step down progression note. Okay, our step down progression note, as you can see, is from the second line of the chorus to the third line, which is from the A minor to the F. A minor to F, we actually did that progression note before. naturally the progression note must be the G in between. Okay, so let me just run through with you 4 counts of A minor to 2 counts of F. It should go like this. Okay, so I hope you are familiar with all these step down progression notes. Now, just to get you a bit familiar with this step down progression notes, what I'll be doing is that I'll play through the whole song of Still by Hillsong United, just using the step down progression note first, and then after that we'll learn the step up progression note. Okay, so let me just put my metronome to 75 beats per minute. So come in with the melody introduction all the way up to the end of the song with the step down progression note. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so how did that sound for you? I hope that it sounded just a little bit more continuous in that sense. Okay, so now let's continue with the step up progression note. Now, knowing the step down progression note, the step up progression note will be much faster. Okay, the very first step up progression note that we can see is the G on the first line of Still, which is after the D minor. So D minor to a G. Now you might wonder what's the step up progression note, because it's quite a far jump. Actually, if the jump is so huge, usually it's just a note just below the G, which is the F sharp. Okay, so let me just show you from the F, D minor to G. Okay, naturally F to D minor I'll be doing the step down, D minor to G I'll do the step up. So here is how it goes. Okay, so if you heard that, from D minor to the G is still the same thing. It's from the 1 and 2 and. Okay, let me just do that again. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so let me just continue to show you the next progression note. Okay, the next progression note is cover me within your mighty hand, on the within, the D minor. Okay, yet again from A minor to D minor, you can see it's such a large jump, but because it's a step up progression note, it's just a note just before the D minor itself. So here, how it goes. Okay, so if you heard it, it's A minor, 1, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, and next from the D minor to the G, the step up progression note yet again is your F sharp. Okay, so here how it goes. Okay, so at this point in time, you have learned the step up and step down progression notes. I want you to just take this time, and I'll flash on screen once again all the chords which are labeled in blue and in red, and I want you to identify which is the step up progression note before that chord itself, which is the step down progression note before the chord itself. If you wish to, you can print out one of these from the link that I've provided in the description below, so that you can just write down the whatever progression note it is just before that chord. Okay, I hope you have done that. Let's just run through what are the different progression notes. Okay, on the first line, we know that there's a step down, then a step up. So it's from a C, G/B to A minor. Before the F is your G, then is a F. Before the D minor is a E. Then before the G is a F sharp. Okay, next one is still the same, C, G/B and A minor. Before the D minor is a C sharp. Before the G is a F sharp. Okay, now to the chorus. Okay, the next line, when the oceans rise, before this F is a F sharp. Before this G, it's a F sharp again. And then a C. And then the F. Before this G is a F sharp. Before this A minor is a G sharp. Okay. Before the next line, Father you are king, of the F is a G. Before the next G is an F sharp. Okay. Then C. Before the next D minor is a C sharp. Before the G is an F sharp. Before the A minor is a G sharp. Before the D minor is a C sharp. Before the G is an F sharp. And then finally a C. Okay, so that was a little bit lengthier in terms of finding out the progression note, but I'm sure when you practice at it, and it will come more naturally. This progression note will be useful, as we'll use this for our future lessons as well. Okay, I urge you to practice it by yourself first, and then after that you can practice with me the whole song of Still itself, now with the progression notes and the compressed playing style. Okay, so let's begin. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so how was that? I'm sure it takes some time to get used to this progression note, because this is the very first time that we're encountering it, and we have many progression notes in the chords themselves. But yet again, I encourage you to work at it, and you'll get better with this, and we'll use the progression notes for the future lessons as well. I hope you have enjoyed this lesson, and look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Thank you.